Hey Falcons fans, the offseason is heating up, and there's a new free agent on the market who could be a fantastic, budget-friendly addition to Atlanta's defense. Let's jump right in. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you stay updated on all the latest Falcons news. The Falcons are in need of some defensive reinforcements, and there's an affordable option available. We all know the team has some big choices to make this offseason, especially with the Kirk Cousins situation grabbing headlines. But while the quarterback drama is important, we can't overlook the pressing need to improve our defense. Last season, Atlanta ranked 19th in yards allowed per play and 23rd in scoring defense. The front seven took a lot of heat, but the secondary wasn't much better, giving up an average of 6.3 yards per pass attempt. That's why bringing in a solid, experienced cornerback should be a top priority for the Falcons. And guess what? A great bargain just became available. Veteran cornerback Kendall Fuller has been released by the Miami Dolphins, making him a prime target for Atlanta. At 30 years old, Fuller has been in the league since 2016, playing for teams like Washington, Kansas City, and Miami. He's been a steady and reliable player, racking up 10 interceptions during his 4 years with Washington before joining the Dolphins. Now let's be honest, he may not be the all-pro corner he once was. Last season, he didn't record any interceptions, but he still managed to limit quarterbacks to just 316 yards and 1 touchdown when they targeted him, with a completion rate of only 62.8%. With A.J. Terrell firmly established as the CB1, the Falcons still need depth in the secondary. Alfred might return, but adding Fuller would bring valuable experience and stability without breaking the bank. So the big question is, can the Falcons afford him? Now here's where things get really interesting. Last season, Kendall Fuller made just $2.5 million with the Dolphins. That's exactly the kind of team-friendly contract the Falcons need right now. Currently, Atlanta is $11.1 million over the salary cap. Plus, if they cut Kirk Cousins as expected, they'll face a whopping $65 million in dead cap space and a $25 million penalty. Not exactly ideal. That's why signing a veteran like Fuller, who won't demand a huge contract, makes perfect sense. He's a low-risk, high-reward option that can instantly boost the defense without putting a strain on the team's finances. What do you think, Falcons fans? Should the Falcons go after Kendall Fuller to add some much-needed depth at cornerback, or should they explore other options for defensive help? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Now let's dive into a scenario that might send chills down your spine. What if the Falcons hadn't drafted Michael Penix Jr.? Let's be honest, Penix is the spark that's keeping this fan base from losing hope. His raw talent and electrifying performances in the final games of the season have given us something we haven't had in years: hope. But what if the Falcons had chosen differently on draft night? It's a scary thought. If Atlanta hadn't picked Penix, the franchise would be in a completely different and much worse situation right now. Let's start with Kirk Cousins. If the Falcons hadn't selected Penix, Cousins would have played all 17 games, and we likely would have seen the same offensive struggles that have haunted the team for most of the year, even with Cousins at the helm. It's hard to imagine that the outcome would have been much different. The Falcons would still be looking at missing the playoffs for the 7th year in a row. But here's where things get really complicated. The offseason would be a nightmare without a young quarterback waiting in the wings. The Falcons would have no choice but to stick with Cousins as their starter in 2025. Sure, he might have time to recover from an injury, but let's be honest, how excited would you be for another season with Cousins as the QB? The Falcons would find themselves trapped in a cycle of mediocrity. The real issue wouldn't just be 2025, it would be the long-term future of the franchise. Think about what Terry Fontenot said after the draft. This team wasn't bad enough to land a top quarterback in the future. Without Penix, the Falcons would be stuck in the worst position in the NFL. Good enough to miss out on elite QB prospects, but not strong enough to compete for a Super Bowl. No franchise quarterback, no playoff appearances, and no salary cap space would lead to endless frustration for the fan base. Instead, the Falcons took a chance, and now there's real hope that Penix could become a star in the NFL. As we all know, any team with a superstar quarterback has a shot at making a deep playoff run. So, what do you think, Falcons fans? How different would this offseason have been if the Falcons hadn't drafted Michael Penix Jr.? Do you still have hope for the future, or do you think the team is completely lost? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now let's shift our focus to two key players who could make a big impact in 2025, Bryce Tatum and DeMarco Helms. These two were set to make a difference last season before injuries in the first preseason game sidelined them for the year. As they prepare to return, the big question is, how will they fit into this defense? Let's break it down. First up is Bryce Tatum, the X factor off the edge. Tatum, a third-round pick in 2024, is best described in one word: relentless. During training camp, he showed flashes of being a dominant pass rusher, the same guy who earned the title of Washington's Defensive MVP in 2022. General Manager Terry Fontenot has been vocal about Tatum from the start, praising his power, motor, and ability to excel in both run and pass defense. Let's be honest, Atlanta needs someone like him. While the defensive front finished last season strong, ranking 11th in yards allowed per game and second in sacks per pass attempt from weeks 13 to 18, the pass rush is still a bit of a question mark. Arnold Eddy caught fire late in the season, racking up 5 sacks in the last 6 games, but the Falcons still lack a true, consistent presence on the other side. If Tatum can step up and be that guy, the Falcons' pass rush could finally take the leap we've all been waiting for. Pairing him with Eddy and letting inside players like Rook, Hororo, and Dless wreak havoc could make this front line one of the best we've seen in years. Now, let's talk about DeMarco Helms. This guy was on track to take on a significant role in 2024, working with the first-team defense in camp and starting 4 of the last 6 games in his rookie year. With Justin Simmons set to hit free agency, the Falcons need to figure out who will line up alongside Jesse Bates III. Could Helms be that guy? Coaches love his football IQ, and even though he faced an injury, his potential to contribute remains high. The Falcons are counting on him to step up and make an impact in the upcoming season. Despite his injury, DeMarco Helms remained deeply involved in film study and defensive meetings. According to assistant coach Jerry Gray, Helms was still getting assignments, studying film, and staying mentally sharp, even though he couldn't play. That kind of preparation could pay off big if the Falcons decide to trust him to start all 17 games in 2025. The big question is, are they ready? Here's the bottom line. Tatum and Helms could be key pieces of the Falcons' defense, but there are still some unknowns. Can Tatum step up and give Atlanta a legitimate pass-rushing duo alongside Eddy? Can Helms fill the void at safety if Simmons leaves? If the Falcons believe in their potential, it could change how they approach free agency and the draft, allowing them to focus on other defensive needs. However, if there are still doubts about their readiness, we might see some new faces brought in. So, what do you think, Falcons fans? Are Tatum and Helms ready to step up and play big roles in 2025, or do the Falcons need to add more pieces to the defense? Share your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more news. Go Falcons!